This is the Weigh-In Podcast by Ben Wad Chestnut and the occasional Poppin' Sebastian Romero. On this week's Takedown Thursdays, we talked to you about that Oklahoma State University Cowboy Wrestling Iowa Iowa Dual Meet plus their 12-match win streak. 12 straight matches. They're 6-0 at home, 6-0 away, 7-0 in the conference. Let's talk about these Cowboys. But nonetheless, that is this week's Takedown Thursdays, an episode presented to you by The Weigh-In. So we jump right into this one, in our Takedown Thursday episode presented by The Weigh-In, the great. First and foremost, Okie State got the revenge. I'm going to tell you how. So let's take a look all the way back. Paycom National Duels. We're gonna just take it all the way back. Iowa won 18-16. Now, just to kind of give you some goodies here. Some goodies here. If I could give you the goodies here. Then, months later, Iowa versus Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State wins 32-11. So, some interesting stuff here. Interesting stuff to partake. So let's get that going. So in the first dual meet, Dean Peterson beat Troy Spratley. And Dean Peterson beat Troy Spratley. Drake Ayala beat Ronnie Ramirez 7-4, sudden victory. Sergio Vargas was able to win sudden victory over Nazir Bailey. Ryder Block beat Casey Swistorsky. And 157, Landon Rabot won over Victor Varnovich. Darren Lockett won over Michael Caliendo. Pat Kennedy beat Alex Fandango. You look, Angelo Ferrari beat Zach Ryder. Masama Endine, who was no longer with Iowa, beat Cody Morelli 4-3. Connor Doucette beat Iowa, forfeited a heavyweight because they knew that they could forfeit heavyweight. Crazy. Now let's fast forward months later, and let's talk about what went down on Sunday. So if I get just running right through, 125. Let's get it started at 125. 125. Troy Spratley gets the revenge win over Dean Peterson and beats him 5-2. So he beats Dean Peterson. Now we got a new runner in the name. No Ronnie Ramirez, but Jax Forrest. This is the biggest shocker of it all. If you did not see this, this is a shocker. Jax Forrest tech Drake Ayala, two-time NCAA finalist. Drake Ayala, two-time NCAA finalist Drake Ayala, got tech falled against Jack Forrest. There's a lot of people that said Jax Forrest, he let go too soon, he let go too good. Now, with him wrestling that dual meet, as far as Jack Forrest, he will wrestle postseason because they say now that he's gotten one too many dual meets to redshirt, so he's got to wrestle. He's got to wrestle postseason, but I think he's ready. He tech two-time NCAA finalist Drake Ayala. So you talk about right off the bat, there are two tech falls. Right off the bat, you got a decision by Troy Spratley, and then you get a tech fall by Jax Forrest. Then you follow it up at 141. Sergio Vega gets a fall. So we talked about this beforehand, the bonus that's going to happen. So we talk about first match, you don't get any bonus, but Jack Forrest, Sergio Vega gets bonus. You talk about two sets of bonus right off the bat. And then followed by Ryder Block of Iowa tried to get Iowa some bonus. And he went out and put he got some bonus. He got a tech fall against Coulter Burton. I think that was an interesting choice, but I think they were confident enough that they were still going to have the dual meet by even putting Colton out there, which is absolutely, hey, it is what it is. And then Landon Rubano beat Jordan Williams. So you talk about there's some interesting names that were not up here. So you talk about that 157. If we go back and we look at that so many months ago, that 157, it was Victor Vonovich that was up there. So now you see no Victor Vonovich. At 149, you did see Casey Swisterski months ago, but the choice to no Casey is okay. You look at this right here too. There's no Nazir Bailey out there. So you have no Nazir Bailey wrestling. So that was another reason why Sergio Vega was able to get the fall. Look at the choices of what was going on, when you talk more about that. Michael Caliendo, though, did do a good job. Michael Caliendo, at 165, did it justice because he lost to Darren Lockett so many months ago, 7-3, but he came and got his revenge, his revenge win by beating LaDarian Lockett 4-2. Not a big one, but 4-2. And you look at that, and then you at 174, you have Pat Kennedy take out Alex Fandango. Watch. He did it so many months ago. He did it in Sudden Victory, but this time, no Sudden Vic. This time, no Sudden Vic. He won 8-3. You look at Zack Ryder. He turned around and beat Gabe Arnold 2-1. Sudden Victory. That's something that you're able to do. Turn around and Gabe Arnold, who's talked about, he's the guy. He's all this and that. I get a ton of victory, but loss is a loss. That's it. And Cody Morelli had a fall over Brody Sampson. So Cody Morelli, in the last time they went, he lost to Mosama Endine, which we all know Mosama Endine was excused from the team due to certain situations. It is what it is. And then you had heavyweight, you had Connor Dossett get a fall. So when you talk about that Iowa State came in here, they were home too, that they were determined not to lose this dual meet. That's got to tell you something, that they came in here and they wrestled like Okie State. If we look at how they looked on the year, how Okie State looks on the year, I'll give you that, the rundown. They're 15-1. Their only loss came to Iowa. They started the year off at Stanford. They got a 33-7 win. They went to Cornell and won 22-12. Then they wrestled NC State and won 23-11. Then that's when they went to Paycom National Duels. Cornell was at National Duels. NC State was at National Duels, and they lost to Iowa at National Duels 16-18. Then they wrestled at National Duels Nebraska and won 33-6. They wrestled Air Force and won 34-6. They wrestled Arizona State and won 25-11. They wrestled West Virginia and won 34-3. They wrestled Nebraska and won 22-12. They wrestled Oklahoma, which is what we like to call the Bedlam. They won 37-zip. Yeah, I'm going to let the silence hit there. 37-zip. Yeah. Oklahoma didn't even get not one match. Not one. Well, interesting. Then they wrestled Missouri and they won 33-3. They wrestled Northern Iowa and they won 34-3. They wrestled Iowa State and won 24-9. They wrestled Little Rock and won 41-6. They wrestled Virginia Tech and won 19-12. And the latest, they wrestled Iowa and won 32-11. You talk about this Okie State team. They're a good-looking team. They're another one of those groups that we talked about in the preseason, before season, that they're in title contention. I don't say team title contention, but I mean, you know what? They're in trophy contention. That's the better word I should use. When we talk about Oklahoma State, we talked about them. We talked about Nebraska, and we obviously know the Kel Sanderson dynasty. We talk about it. But when you look at this David Taylor group, to go, like I said, to go out and do what they did, and that is go 15-1. We're talking Penn State numbers here right now. Only one loss across the whole year. They got one loss. And you look at that group. So you start talking about the dynasty that's happening over there, and you talk about they're going to start giving Kale a run for his money. And I don't mean a literal run for, it's a metaphorically thing that people say, a run for your money. They're going to be running Kale out of his, you know, out of his shoes, because this is a David Taylor's doing a really good thing over there to turn around, and then you're really second season taking over. You go 15-1, 15-1. Let's take a look at what their record was last year, so that we could talk on the improvement of this Okie State team with under David Taylor. So last year they were 13-1. Obviously there was no Paycom National Duels last year, but we're all excited. We got Paycom National Duels back, and they're coming back next year too. So the we're gonna really stay excited. We're gonna really, really, really stay excited. So let's look at the record last year. If we talk about it, they were 13-1, which is still pretty good. 9-0 in the conference, 6-1 away, 7-0. So let's see, who was that loss last year? And I'm pretty sure I know who it was. The loss was to Iowa, 16-21. So you talk about regular season, you lost to Iowa. The next year comes up, you lose to them at Paycom, but when they come to your Gallagher Arena, you don't let them beat you. You absolutely run through them. You run through them. So you talk about the Okie State losing to Iowa, no more. No more. Because now this year they're 15-1, 7-0 in the conference, which tells you a little less. Sounds like they had less conference matches this year, but it's okay. A-okay. They're 6-0 at home, 6-0 away, 3-1 at neutral because of obviously Paycom National Duels loss. But when you talk about that, that is the absolute thing going. So let's talk about what this all is. So this was the largest victory over Iowa since 1961. 1961. I want everybody to let that sit in for a little bit. 1961. When I'm telling you that this Okie State group under David Taylor is going to start making a lot of noise. They're going to make a lot of noise right now. You look at how good David Taylor's group is. That this year, their only loss was to Iowa, but you talk about next year and how good Jax Forrest is. And he talked about it. They said that Jax Forrest said he came to wrestle. He said he wasn't coming to Okie State to redshirt this year. He came to wrestle. The way he took out Drake Ayala tells me he can make the national final. I wouldn't be surprised if we had Drake Ayala and Jax Forrest in the NCAA final. I wouldn't be surprised, but I'm telling you, Jax Forrest can wrestle. This is something we've never seen before. You graduate high school early, and then mid-season, you take off and start wrestling. I think we're going to start seeing this a lot more in terms of wrestling-wise. If they're good enough, we didn't see this with Bo Bassett, but I still think Bassett's going to run off the ground and be really good. So I'm excited to see that next year. As amidst all the haters saying, "Oh, is he even going to perform well?" Bassett's going to do just fine. Bassett's going to do just fine. So let's talk about it. So let's really get this. The smallest margin of victory for the Okie State and Iowa dual meet is 1/7 2012. It was a 17-16 win. And let me tell you how many it's gone. So let's see. The last 6 dual meets, Iowa won. So, and one of those was the Arlington, Texas neutral dual meet. Many of you don't know, they did a nice wrestling it was a baseball stadium, indoor baseball. I think it was a baseball. I think it was indoor, but in the baseball stadium, the wrestling in the baseball stadium. And this is what I'm talking about. This is why I really like that Paycom National Duels came back. I like the neutral site wrestling duel meets. Those are really good. Those are really good. Like a lot of people know early season when it's not too cold out, they do wrestling in the football stadiums. I know Rutgers used to sometimes, if weather permits, gets one going. I know a lot of teams try to have those outdoor dual meets, and I'm telling you, it's a really good thing. Now, could you imagine AT&T Stadium? I know that's not outdoor, but AT&T Stadium, you fill it up, you do like you take the best two teams, you do a dual meet next year, AT&T Stadium, Penn State, Oklahoma State University, David Taylor versus Kale. You line it up, you put all the chairs out. You're telling me that would not sell out. Now I get it. AT&T Stadium is really big. Don't get me wrong, it is really big. But you don't think wrestling fans would want to see David Taylor up against his former coach? And you don't even do only that dual meet. You do like a couple of them too. So you do like 2-3 dual meets. You do like a special match before. Probably more than likely, Flow Wrestling would line it up. Right? Right. You do a couple extra matches. Exhibitions before, and you do Oklahoma State versus Penn State, AT&T Stadium. It could be anywhere, obviously. It could be anywhere, but AT&T Stadium is pretty big where you can fill it up. You can fill it up. Real big, fill it up. You know what I mean? Like, you fill it up. You put chairs on the outside. Like, same thing they do when they do boxing. You've ever seen boxing in there? They have chairs out. They got a grand big stage and everything. Like, that's what I'm talking about. They get a nice little stage. Let them walk out. Big. Like, let them walk out. Real nice. Nice tunnel. Amidst everybody saying Kel Sanderson would just win that, but no, he would not. No, he would not. And I'm going to tell you why. Because look at this David Taylor group he's got today. Well, I mean, this season, I rather should say. This season. And tell me if that's going to go the way it is. I think more than half the matches, some of the good ones, some of the top guys like Troy Spratley and and guys like that, when I tell you, those guys, I believe, would like go into overtime. So we talk about it. I believe Jesus Pasterski, Troy Spratley, Sergio Vega's another one. LaDarren Lockett, I believe, is another good one. Zach Ryder's another good one. Most of those, I believe, would go into overtime. I believe they'd go into overtime. I believe it would be a good duel meet. I don't believe it'd be a runaway. I want to see it. And I only say AT&T because that's like a neutral sighting. I like a lot of that neutral sighting like they did there. Like, do like 3-4 like neutral sighting, and you do a couple like, because that's what they did with the wrestling in the baseball stadium. If I can find it, I'm gonna find it. Yeah, I'm gonna find it. I remember what it was, and I'm gonna get all that stuff for you. I'm gonna get all that stuff for you. I'm gonna get all that stuff for you. It was called Bout at the Ballpark. Bout at the Ballpark. They had two mats set up, and it was Bout at the Ballpark. You're telling me that you don't want another neutral sighting? Like, you bring 4 or 5 teams, maybe. You put up like two, three mats in AT&T Stadium. You line it up. You do a nice little, warm up area, and you do the best dual meets you want to see. Like, I'm telling you, those 17, 16 dual meets. like you do Iowa State in a dual meet, and you bring like 4 or 5 teams, and you do like a nice little like round robin, and you call it something. I really do believe that it would be a really good dual meet. But more than less, I want to see Iowa. I mean, not Iowa. Oklahoma State versus Penn State. David Taylor versus Kelsey Anderson. You can't tell me that should not be on the schedule. And it'll happen if we could get Penn State at Paycom National Duels. If they would just, come on, go to Paycom National Duels now. Come on, go ahead. I get everybody say, well, then they would win every year. No, I don't think so. Because we saw some shockers at Paycom this year. I thought Oklahoma State University was going to win Paycom National Duels, and they didn't. They didn't. So we saw a lot of shockers this year at that Paycom National Duels. And I think NCAA is going to surprise us too. Because Okie State looks really good. If they don't finish first, it's going to be second. I'm telling you, they're gonna have another team trophy this year. David Taylor's gonna have another team trophy again. I'm telling you, the way that group looks, the way they wrestled against Iowa, every last one of them, even the ones who lost, with the exception of a few matches, wrestled very well. Very well. Very well. They wrestled very well. And it was a good thing. I liked how they did it. Really good bout at the ballpark. Great thing. Real great thing. Presented by Kubota. It was by Kabuta. Real good thing. Now let's get to what I was just telling you. With the exception of a couple matches, most of them wrestled very well. I think the whole takeaway from that dual meet is Jax Forrest turning around and teching Drake Ayala. But I know for the Iowas that might watch this, they might not like to hear that, but I think that's the best thing. So, like I talked about, with the exception of with the exception of 149, where that was a tech fall, and the exception and kind of 174, but not really. Every other match was a close score, and they wrestled very well. And that's what I'm talking about. The wrestling very well. Because when you talk about some of the stuff that goes down, like that has gone down in that dual meet, and that goes to that dual meet, there's a lot of good things there, and some of that is all good stuff, all good thoughts. The way I feel, it's all good thoughts. Because you can look at that dual meet and say Iowa wins it almost for the last 6 years, like last 6 years or so. I think is what I told you. Last 6 years or so, and you say, "Wow, yeah," but I look at that and I say, Okie State got it this year, and you can even say, "Well, Iowa still won it this year at Paycom National Duels." I know, but at the end of the year, who won? Okie State. So I had a lot of faith in that Iowa group. I had a lot of faith in that Iowa group when they had got Sammy Alvarez, which that turned out to be the Sammy Alvarez situation was just one that was just, you hate to see it. It turned out he was never approved for a medical red shirt a couple seasons when he was over at Rutgers. He thought he was approved in medical red shirt. He thought he had one more year, but the medical red shirt was never approved. So technically he did not have another year, but he thought he did. And they found out, you don't have another year, Sammy. That was one thing. You had Dean Peterson has done some very good wrestling. When he beat Troy Spratley at Paycom National Duels, I was really shocked, but Troy Spratley just got his revenge win. And you talk about that and you say, wow, we looked at Iowa as a good group. Don't get it twisted. We looked at Iowa as a front runner. I said, Iowa looks really good. They're definitely going to be getting some type of hardware as a team. And you look at them, and you look at Iowa now, and their overall record is 12-6. They're 3-3 away. So let's see who those losses were. And that's something I was talking about. They lost to Ohio State. That's not a shocker. And that was at Paycom. Then they lost to Iowa State. That was a really good dual meet. Then they lost to Penn State. No surprise. Bad loss. 32-3. They lost again to Minnesota. Like, then now you wrestle Ohio State regular season and you lose to them again 24-9. And then the final of the season, you lost 32-11 to Oklahoma State University. So we talk about it. A lot of losing for that Iowa. And I had so much good faith in that Iowa team this year. I said it too. I said they're going to come away with some hardware. Iowa's going to come away with a lot of hardware. And I said that for a lot of reasons because I was like, Iowa's going to come away with some hardware. If Iowa doesn't come away with some hardware, they're going to come away with some hardware. And I really had a lot of faith in that Iowa corner that a lot of hardware was coming for them. And I don't believe so. They've just been getting beat by everybody. I don't think they've wrestled well enough. In terms of, do I still think Dean Peterson's going to be an All-American? I do. Dean Peterson's done some of his best wrestling. I do still think he's going to be an All-American. I hope so. He's done really great wrestling. I hate to not see him get an All-American. But that should tell you how many times Dean Peterson has upset people at Nationals and is not an All-American. That should tell you so much how hard it is to become an All-American. That's why you really got to get credit. That's why I say when we talked about the episode a while episodes ago, we talked about CJ Composto and how his first year when CJ Composto became an All-American his first time, it was a shocker. Yeah, because it's so hard to become an All-American. And I know a lot of you are going to say, well, you're not a Division I wrestler and you're saying something's hard. Listen, even a Division I wrestler will tell you it's not easy to become an All-American, let alone a national champ. It's not easy. It's not. It just really isn't easy. And that's why I'm telling you, it's hard. So that's one of those things that is just one of those things that just really look and you really question whether it's a good or bad thing in terms of everything. Because it's really one of those things where you say, so that's why I kind of still think it's really one of those things where you say, hey, we're at one of those things where it's really fairly interesting in terms of wrestling wise that, yeah, not everybody becomes an All-American. And you look at this year, you look at Iowa, where they're going to finish in the team race. And if they wrestle how they've wrestled the last half of this season, if they wrestle how they wrestled this last half of the season, I'm going to be honest with you. I think even Rutgers will place higher than they will. Rutgers on a nice little win streak coming into this. I guess we're going to see how they do at Big Ten, see how they wrestle up at Big Tens, and we'll go from there. But I'm not pleased with the Iowa performance. Preseason, I thought they were going to come out and do really great things. And it just did not go the way. It did not go the way I would have thought. It did not go the way I would have thought. I thought Iowa would have had a more tougher year. And the fact that Iowa State went in there and got the job done, just that's all I needed to know. That's all I needed to know. It's one of those things. Well, we're in the end of yet another Takedown Thursday. I brought to you as an episode more about Oklahoma State. And that's just another one. That's all I got for you today. Really want to talk that Oklahoma State, another team that is ending the year really strong. And I wouldn't be surprised if you see Oklahoma State with 10 to the national. I think they're going to get Cale Sanderson numbers here. They're gonna get a full squad to nationals. I think it's going to be very hard to not see them with a full squad because you look at everybody inside their conference. They really have not. They haven't been beat. The teams that have beat them, where they've been stopped is outside the conference. So I'm really think it's going to be interesting. But nonetheless, that is this week's Takedown Thursdays and an episode presented by The Weigh-In. It is what it is. This is The Weigh-In by Benoit Chestnut and the occasional pop-in Sebastian Romero. And that's all I got for this. Weigh-In out. The Weigh-In,